This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Our Canadian government has just put some new regulations into place against the importation of Russian diamonds and also interestingly enough, Russian synthetic diamonds or synthetic diamonds originating in Russia, even if sold through other countries. There's also in this list of stuff that's now that can't be imported into Canada, there's also stuff like watches and jewelry, this kind of stuff. So that's kind of interesting today. Anyway, I'll put a link to the notice, the Government of Canada notice, in the show notes of our podcast. This is kind of, I guess this is interesting in a couple of ways. One, it allows you to see the intersection of politics and the jewelry industry or the diamond or gem trade. You can see how law can impact it. And in another way, it's kind of interesting to see how governments consider jewelry and gems and stuff. Like here they're equating, for the purposes of being available in Canada, they're equating, the only thing that matters with this, it seems, is that its source is Russia. So they don't want any of that coming into my country anymore. The good news for us is we never used it anyway, and we only use Canadian materials in our products. We're a Canadian jeweler. We're renowned for that. We are an authorized user of Canada's National Precious Metals Mark on our products, which is Canada's highest mark of quality for precious metals material. And what it says and means is that when you see this mark, it's like a C with a maple leaf in the middle. And what that means is that what you're looking at is made of precious metal and has been entirely manufactured and made here in Canada. We go the extra step further by only using Canadian materials in our products, if at all possible. So for custom work, if somebody says, here's a stone, can you incorporate it? And we'll do that, but what we're about is the metal coming from here, the stones coming from here, everything coming from Canada, because we're the world's luxury cannabis jeweler. So that's why. I have a beef against the Art Juice podcast ladies. I really do. I'm like, last week, first off, this podcast I listened to, I listened to a random collection of podcasts. As a podcaster, you have to listen to different podcasts. But an art one I've always liked is the Art Juice podcast, where two women, I think they're abstract artists. I don't know anything about art. What do I know? But they're painters, and they talk about the process and stuff. And their show's been around a long time. But I do listen to it because I enjoy listening to other artists talk. As I've mentioned here before, being an artist or a designer, somebody who works in a creative hand, making stuff with their hands, basically, in studios, it can be isolating and lonely. So hearing other artists talk about their process is always interesting. Now, granted, their process is not your process, and it shouldn't really be your process. You have to figure out your own process. But it'll give you rungs on a ladder if you listen to an artist talk about how they make their stuff, or how they feel while they're making their stuff, or what they're doing when they're making their art. A new artist will listen to this and learn and get rungs on the ladder. They'll get grips and places that they can hold on to as they access their creative inner selves to produce the art they need to produce. But you need some sort of framing, right? Some tips, And that's why it's always good to listen to other artists talk, because you can learn from their mistakes. You can learn from their successes. You can understand how they think about art and how they think about stuff like that happens all the time, like failure. If you're making a painting or a jewelry piece like me, I have a bunch of different pieces going at once, and I'm flipping between them back and forth. Some pieces remain unfinished for like over a year, and then they get, they get started again. These are my own personal pieces that I'm working on, design experiments and stuff. But if I put it aside for a year, come back to it, it's hard to communicate that to a new artist who doesn't really have any idea of how they're going to make their stuff, right? So anyway, back to the two women, the art juice ladies. I listened to their podcast last week, and one of them, I think it was Alice, was talking about, I've been meaning to clean my studio, and I started cleaning my studio, and I've done it, and I feel so much better having done it. And I'm like thinking, now I got to clean my studio. I'm looking around, as I explain the way I work, as I start building stuff, and like say I'm working on a belt buckle in an area of the studio. When I start working on it, the table is clean and bare and there's nothing on it. But by the end of it, it's completely surrounded by like adhesives and like clay and files. Like I've rebuilt an entire smaller studio around the piece I'm making. So everything is close at hand. And now, after a while, the whole studio gets to look like, God, I can't even describe it. I still know where everything is, though. But it visually, it's not the most pleasant place to look at. So I'm like, okay, I got to clean my studio. It's spring after all. I mean, I can see now the buds are out. Like it was 20 degrees C yesterday. For you Americans, that's like room temperature. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna maybe I'll move some lights around in the studio. That's what I'll do. So I moved one light, and that started a week-long light, changing all the lights in the studio, like for photography and video and shit, right? So light placement is critical. It's absolutely critical when you're shooting video or photography in a studio. So I have lights like screwed into walls and stuff on poles, like on special aluminum extension poles. I got lights all around in this studio. But they're screwed into the walls. So moving one light is not like, picking up a lamp and moving it across a table. Moving a light is unscrewing this boom off the wall, and it took me a full week of taking everything down and putting it back up, and some of it in exactly the same place as it was when I took it down. But I've moved stuff around and started shooting in the studio, shooting videos, little videos, test videos, with the lighting and different arrangements. Now, I thought this would take 5 minutes, but no, it took a week, and I'm still doing it, but I've got it narrowed down. I've learned so much about my studio space and how I can use the studio space in order to sell our products, how to photograph them better, how to video tape them better. I've positioned lights in new ways, and I'm going to try that and see how the photography looks. It was a huge, huge learning experience, like a major learning experience. From an interior design point of view, I guess, I don't know anything about that, but from a photography point of view, I learned a lot of stuff. I watched a lot of YouTube videos to see how to light video, because I'm a still photographer at heart. Like, that's most of the photography I've done my whole life is still photography. So when it comes to shooting video, I thought, man, I'm going to start watching some YouTube videos of people who do this to see how it's done. And you know what? There's so much raw, incorrect information about lighting on YouTube. I mean, I watched, I'm thinking, Is it really that different than still photography? A little bit, but not completely different. And you don't want to throw out all the ideas you've learned your whole life just because some dude is on YouTube telling you to use light in a certain way. So, but I did. I threw all that out and started trying these other new techniques. And you know what? Fuck that. Sometimes a life's experience in an area is way more valuable than some douche on YouTube talking about lighting. But anyway, I've moved the studio around like 30, 40 different times. God, it was intense. And I'm recording videos of myself for practice. Because like anything, practice makes perfect. So I'm recording these little videos with different lighting setups and then talking about the products, talking about our products and stuff and how we make them. And just like I do in this podcast, right? But in video. It's a different thing, and I'm trying to get used to it. I'm not at all comfortable with it yet, but I'm getting more comfortable with it. Well, like anything, if you practice makes perfect. And if you keep doing it often enough, you take that uncomfortableness, the horribleness out of it. It becomes really easy to do. And then you can add flourishes to it, right? You can make it your own. But just getting the basic stuff out of the way, like if I'm recording, if I'm looking at the camera lens, am I looking out away from it? Should I light myself dark or brighter? There's a whole thinking about this, the video and movies, and how they're lit. Basically, that's it. Video and movies, how they're lit. Look at some movies that you like or that you want to achieve certain looks, and then figure out how they did it, and then do that. So that's what I've done. I'm not really listening to the dudes on YouTube that really are clueless about lighting. But anyway, so I've got a kind of interesting lighting setups I'm experimenting with now to photograph myself. And then because of that, I've invented ways to light products differently too. So it's been a whole week of turmoil in the studio with shit just piled all over in new places and then resorted, and very unsettled, completely unsettled, and not the best environment to make art. But I'm getting ready for that. It's spring. So a spring cleaning, in spite of my complaints about the art ladies convincing me somehow to clean my studio space, it's better than it was, let me say. And I've learned so much on how to photograph myself, and I'm getting a little more comfortable on the products, and even more ways to shoot the products that are just going to be great. So because it's spring, up here, when I was living in the city in Toronto, spring would just sort of come and go, and it would be summer and really hot. You'd notice the dramatic seasons, like the 12 feet of snow or the blistering temperatures. Spring would just go past in the city. You don't notice it really. A few buds, boom, gone, done. Now it's summer. But here where I am on the river, out in the countryside, and where the design studio is, it's different. It's rural. There are trees, there are nature. The nature here is all around me. In fact, I am in nature. I mean, I'm kind of the interloper, it seems, here now, because I'm on the property here. There's lots of trees, and the buds are forming. But birds, I've never seen so many birds in my life. Like, they all arrived one night last week or one day, or I have no idea. I never saw them arrive. Suddenly there were birds everywhere, and they're flying around looking for nests, I guess, or to places to build nests. Now, these are the early birds. These are the ones that got here first, and they're picking the best spots. So the second birds coming along, they're going to arrive and wonder why all the nests are gone. How come all these other fuckers have all the best spots? It's because they got there early. That's why. Jeez, But anyway, the nature here is out of control. It's like, bam, the birds are everywhere. They're building nests. They're digging. They're making all kinds of noise. The grass is turning green. It's just the whole season it's like somebody's turning up the speed knob on nature, in Canada. The clear, defined seasons here, I think, is something I didn't even notice really before when I was living in Toronto. But now I do. And I'm taking it all in. And I think it's going to impact the designs this year. So I'm thinking about this now that it's spring. I have a cleanish studio, and I have new ways to photograph the products I will make. See where this is going? I've already done stuff for this year. I've got product design ideas that I drew out all winter while I was inside, unable to sit outside and draw and create ideas in the sun. I was indoors drawing and creating ideas every morning, and I've got books of them. Now, notebooks, just like, little art notebooks, not expensive ones, but good ones. And I've drawn out all these designs, everything from pendants, belt buckle designs, new chain link designs. I have new pendant designs. I have charm designs. It's just full of stuff that, it was so bleak outside that I poured it all on the pages. Okay, so now it's spring, and I have a cleanish studio, and I have a book full of ideas. I still have more ideas coming, mind you. Just because I wrote them down, it doesn't mean they're gone. Like no new ones are coming. In fact, when you write them down and when you document them, or if you make them, new ideas will come more and more. You have to clear away that stuff. But putting it in books, drawing it out, this gives you a library of products to draw from, amazing products. Product ideas that you might likely forget about otherwise. So I've got these books, and I'm a cleanish studio, new ways of photographing the products and considering them and talking about them on video. And we're ready. We're ready for spring. The problems I was having, growing the 4 plants that we used to create our product designs. As I mentioned before, I had some issues with a mouse ate the tops. It killed the first 4 that I grew. But eventually now I have 4 seedlings, and they're not seedlings anymore. They're young plants, I think, and they're growing. They seem to be growing well. Now the leaf structure of this year's plants is different from all the previous years that I've grown. These are fatter leaves, so. And these are more kind of hybrid-y, indica-leaning leaves, which are fatter than the thinner sativa leaves that we generally use here at Trot. So the actual leaf shape in the product is going to change this year, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see how these leaves develop. Now, as these plants grow, I'm going to be looking at them to see which will make better, say, hanging pendants, or which would make a better belt buckle face, or whatever, or a coin face, working on a commemorative coin design, a pitch. So what leaf? I'm looking for a leaf for that, a single leaf for just an amazing a commemorative coin face, or even a belt buckle, a nice single indica leaf. I think that would look amazing. So that's what I'm looking for. So as these plants grow, I'll be looking at them for this. And if I see a leaf like that, I'll capture it, and then we'll make it into products. Yeah, so I'm excited about the plants. They seem to be growing. We're off to a good start, I think. The other thing I've done this week is, this is the hard thing when you're an artist, you still have to do other non-art stuff. It's not all, sitting there with your potter's wheel and everyone else does everything for you. I guess if you're a movie star, potter or whatever. Maybe that's how it works. Or a movie star, painter, or whatever. You have assistants do everything, and you just you put your maker mark on the bottom. But here, what we do, we're kind of jacks of all trades. We do the photography, we take pride in it, and take pride in the product design too. Everything here is hand tooled. So I know where the plants are going to go in the ground. I've got the places. I set them up last year with compost and stuff in the ground, so I know where they're gonna grow. And I've got these big steel poles that I'm going to drive into the ground to tie them up when they get big, if they get big, hopefully. And as they grow, we model them, and we work with the leaves and the components of the plant, and we make them into jewelry pieces. So that's what's going on with the cannabis. Now, the other thing I've been doing this week is, besides recording video, is I've been creating content for the YouTube channel that we're launching, the Cannabis Goldsmith YouTube channel. What I'm going to do is port all these shows, all these audio shows, into the YouTube channel, and eventually we're probably going to be recording video shows. So that's why I'm practicing recording video, and to get super comfortable with it. But the YouTube channel's coming. I gotta say, I want a nice, consistent look across it, so that's what's taking me a little bit of extra time. I just don't want to dump the shit out there, and like I say, everything we do is hand tooled, so it's going to be different, a little bit different looking than anything on YouTube, and it might not get traffic because of that, but whatever, I don't care. I can't control Google. You can try, but whatever you do, they'll do something, and you'll have to start over. So anyway, my goal is just to produce good content that people can understand. That's the entire mission. I don't want to make it fluffy. I don't want to make it fancy. I just want it to be clear, and I want to show clear pictures of stuff if we talk about products. So there'll be product shots in the YouTube thing, so you'll be able to see what the products are that are talked about in the episode. And also there'll be like a clear title so that you can see what the show's about before you even watch it. Now that's important. And then I want to load all the important content in the first few minutes of the show. So instead of the way the advertisers think about it, the advertisers think about it's like, okay, we can put ads in the first, before the show starts, after 3 minutes, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to have advertising in this. I'm not going to monetize these shows with advertising. I sure hope Google doesn't try to do that. But I think because the name is cannabis in the show, I think they're going to be reluctant to do that. So I'm hoping that will be an advantage, that we won't get monetized by other brands overlaying our brand. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's an experiment. But anyway, I want to put up good, clear content that people can understand. After we upload all these 57 shows or whatever it is now, a year's worth of content. So each one of these shows has to be recorded to a video and then uploaded to YouTube. And this takes a long time to do. As I mentioned before, I should have done this from the beginning. So if you start a podcast, upload it to all the platforms simultaneously from the first episode, so you don't have to go back and do it like a year later on one of the channels. So that's a tip I've learned that I can pass on to you. But anyway, today it's spring. It is truly spring. The rain has started. The grass is growing. I'm so hyped at the designs. The designs we're going to make this year. They're just going to be so good. Oh, just so different. And now I think with the video capacity that's coming, I'll be able to talk about them and show them to you, so you can see, and not just in still photos. A goal here, I'll tell you what a goal is. A goal is that you'll be able to tune into our YouTube channel, and you'll see me talking about our product, and you'll be able to see it and understand what it's about. like if you came to see me in the studio, how I would describe it to you and talk about the product and talk about what it does and what it means and that kind of stuff. So that's the goal. Now, that's just the way we want to do it. Your way might be different. So now with the clean studio and new lighting, and the lighting's almost right. It's almost right. But you know what? I think it'll never be perfect. So maybe I can stop with that now and just work on a couple of products that I have that I've been thinking about a lot. But this whole idea of producing content for YouTube or Instagram or any of these platforms and spending hours and hours and hours doing it and tooling it, making it just perfect, and then uploading it to them, and they're responsible for the distribution of it, right? And they're not going to show it to anybody anyway unless you pay them to do it. So, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pay them to circulate this on YouTube or Instagram or any of these platforms. I'm not going to do it. I've just made a decision not to do it. But I am putting content up. I am going to move the content, I think, away from Instagram and Facebook. They had a global failure this week, and you could just feel people panicking. You could feel people panicking across the world as they lost access to Facebook and Instagram. And it just made me think, if my brand Tribe was only available on Instagram, this is where I put all my marketing weight and all my storytelling, all my narrative, all the effort I put into talking about my brand. If I did that on Instagram only and then it went away, I'd be fucked. And so would you be. And I think people perhaps realized that for a second this week with the Meta global failure, the service failure. So think about that. I know you already forgot about it and you're doing your TikTok videos or whatever. But if you focus on a platform, on a single platform like this, what happens is if they go down, and they can, and you're fucked. So distribute your narrative across many platforms. Go on the web directly. Go directly have a website. Have a website. I mean, my goal is to direct people to the website. This is our home base, tribe.ca. If you're wondering how to find us, tribe.ca. And from there, everything you can branch out. You can find our Instagram account from there. You can find my email address from there. You can listen to podcasts from there. You can see pictures of our products from there. Now, this is our home, tribe.ca. The tribe is us. The CA stands for Cannabis Accessories or Canada, depending. And I'm talking about accessories you can wear here. Fashion accessories, but made of precious metals. Luxury cannabis accessories made in Canada. Tribe. But you see, this is why we have a web page. I don't want to set my home base on Instagram and then suddenly it's gone. And everyone, you see it all the time when there's some problem and the person loses their account and they're just everything's gone for them. They're fucked. Now, if that's their only channel, they're triply fucked, right? So diversify across all platforms, but importantly, have a website. Have a website. Get a domain, build a website, and have it in your portfolio of ways people can see your stuff, or focus on it like us. Make it the home base. Doesn't have to be fancy. Ours is not fancy. Ours is just a simple, basic, a few pages on the domain, and this is where people can see our stuff. And if they want to see more stuff, they can contact me directly via email, and I'll send the pictures. We can talk about product design, what we can do for them in product design, and amazing products we can make for them, custom, just for them. So that's it. But anyway, be careful out there on the platforms, because you know what? There's all kinds of new rules and regulations coming in Canada on internet. So, and some of them are already in place. And in your country too, the laws around internet are changing slowly, but they are. So this is also going to impact your marketing channels, the platforms. So keep that in mind. Use that global meta outage this week as just as a warning, as a bit of a cold shower as to the stability of social media platforms for marketing for your brand. Anyway, that's it for me, the Cannabis Goldsmith. I am going to, you know what? I'm going into the studio today, and I'm going to record more test videos in the morning until I get tired of it and delete them. And then I'm going to work on some products. I've got several on the go right now. Open. I call them open, right? They're like, I'm working on one. It's a joint made where the paper is made of sterling silver. The weed in it's like an open joint that's about to be rolled. The weed in it is made of British Columbia jade chips. So I'm working on that design. That's one. I'm working on a fob, a cannabis leaf, baby leaf key fob in sterling silver. That's almost completed. That's another one. I got like projects, like lots of them. And I'm going to go in and just fiddle around with them today and pull one of them together and see how it looks. And then photograph it and videotape it. And this is going to be a good year for communicating with you all, I think. I hope. I'm going to try. I'll see you next week. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.